Hello, world. Thank you for joining us at Two Grumpy Old Men podcast. My name is Tim Bagwell, and the other grumpy old man is
Rich Carling.
Rich. I saw your recent Substack article on the price of not knowing. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, yes, I can. Yes, I can. It dawned on me, probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, well, actually, when he started cutting Noah, and that's the big thing. I kept thinking to myself, wait a minute, Noah, no, that's kind of like the last thing in the world you really want to cut. Because I cannot imagine anybody who doesn't depend upon that weather report every day, from the news. Okay. Businesses out there that depend upon those weather reports. And it's not just the weather reports. I'll give you an example. Fishermen in the state of Maine who go out and make their livelihood fishing. Okay. The problem they're going to be running into because they don't know is NOAA keeps track of the temperature of the water in the Atlantic Ocean. And they, of course, have been reporting that that temperature has been rising. Well, the fish that these fishermen go for, particularly things like cod and a variety of other fish, okay, like cooler water. Well, if the water keeps warming up, the fish are going to move north. The fishermen have got to know that that's what's happening so that they can chase after the fish, so to speak. Mind you, there's only so far they're going to go in chasing the fish. But the point is that if they don't know, they're going to suddenly be sitting there with these empty nets and trying to figure out why. When NOAA, who's keeping track of the temperature in the Atlantic Ocean, could tell them. So
Right.
here's the question that I came up with. And then I was like going, okay, so what's the cost of not knowing? What is that cost? Give you another example. I mean, how much does a canceled weather balloon cost us? You know what those weather balloons do? They send them up, believe it or not, here in the state of Illinois. They send up 2 balloons a day. Four, actually, I apologize. 4 balloons, I have to remember. One set up in northern Illinois. The other one is in southern Illinois. They do it at 6 a.m. and they do it at 6 p.m. And these things go up in the upper atmosphere. And here's an interesting little thought. I just happened to think of this one. Okay, the FAA communicates with NOAA because they're going to have to know where those weather balloons are because we've got airplanes flying through the area. Okay, so they send these balloons up into the upper atmosphere. Now, those very same airplanes, by the way, depend upon the information that comes out of those weather balloons because they're checking for any kind of atmospheric changes that happen. They help us to predict tornadoes. They help us to predict hurricanes. In fact, there are a series of balloons that get sent up along the coast of Florida that serve two purposes. So they actually send up more in Florida. They serve two purposes. One purpose is, of course, for weather reporting. The other one is that they're looking and tracking any kind of airplane that's trying to quietly enter U.S. airspace because they're smuggling drugs. They've actually
Right.
been able to cut down enormously the amount of airplanes that come in smuggling drugs. Well, you decrease the number of people in NOAA that can operate these weather balloons, who operate the airplanes that go into, the eye of a hurricane. We're not going to know the strength of a hurricane because of the fact that we don't have personnel who don't have the money, even if we did have personnel, to fill up that airplane with gasoline, or jet fuel, or whatever fuel it is that they use, okay, so they can go flying into the eye of a hurricane to take those barometric readings, to see the wind speed, to see how big that eye really is, okay? So we're not going to know that, we've got a Category 5 or a Category 4 or 3, 2, or 1 hurricane just about to hit Miami.
This is what I think that so many of the voters don't understand. I won't say which voters, but what many voters don't understand is, in this price of not knowing, is that how much the government does, and the weather happens all the time. There's no relief from the weather, and monitoring the weather is like, as you detailed, there's many dimensions to it, and when you undercut that, and who knows how much they were understaffed to begin with. Maybe there's improvements I'm sure that were in the works, as there always are, and this cut, I think that I haven't confirmed it, but what I heard was that there were three key positions missing from the San Antonio office of the National Weather Service and two in the San Angelo office, all involved with early warning to the communities about these, and that the community itself. It's not a National Weather Service, and no issue so much, but the community knew there was problems. The government, the local governments knew there was a problem, but they had not taken any action, and that's why the federal government often has to step in, because you have too many local governments who may be poor, may have good excuses for why they weren't doing certain activities, and this is what happens. There's so much the government does, and people don't know.
Yeah. When you cut NOAA's forecasting capacities by 75%, and all in the so-called, let's make things more efficient, and less costly. Well, the problem is that you haven't made it more efficient, because now you don't have people, go back to your San Antonio example, with the recent flooding there in that area, and they were given the warnings, but again, the local authorities there didn't know what to do with them, because NOAA wasn't able to go in and do the training that they normally do, to say to these people, here's how you deal with these warnings when you get them. Yeah. Okay, you have the state of Texas, who apparently is sitting on billions and billions of dollars, not doing anything, okay, that could have set up early warning systems in the area. I actually saw a picture on Facebook that showed that with the Guadalupe River, okay? And it was 3 days before the flooding. And this river was as dry as could be. I mean, it was dust. It was dust. And then, of course, after, the flooding went through, and he showed a picture of the water still raging through that area. It reminded me, back when I went to NIU, we had a river going right straight through the middle of DeKalb, and going through the middle of Sycamore, Illinois. It's called the Kishwaukee River. We used to joke about how it was the mighty Kish, and all that, and that because, that river was lucky if it was ankle deep in spots, and all this. And it's one of the few rivers that actually runs north rather than south. And so what happened one year was that down south there was heavy rainstorms. They must have gotten about 7, 8, 9 inches of rain. Okay, and all that water headed north on the Kishwaukee River, and we found out about it because a friend of mine happened to rent a house that was right where the train trestle and the river meet. And his house is right there. And so he got a warning from the local police department that, hey, we're expecting floodwaters. Now this was part of NOAA. Okay, and when they notified the police department and the authorities in DeKalb and Sycamore that you got a huge amount of water heading your direction, they could take action. Yeah, they could take action. And so they did. Fortunately for my friend, the water never reached his house because there's this huge park across the river from him. And that took the brunt of the water and kept it from coming near his house. But as you went further downstream, it literally took, Lincoln Highway was one road, and they covered that bridge, just up and over that bridge, like it didn't exist. And then it literally cut the town in half. Same thing's happening here with this, in essence with this Guadalupe River and the flooding that happened there. Oh my God, I couldn't believe that. I was like, this is insane. And had they had warnings, they could have gotten those kids out of those camps in plenty of time.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. A little historical side note that popped into my head here is that the Guadalupe River, when Texas joined the Union, it was unclear. Was it the Guadalupe or the Rio Grande that was the boundary with Mexico?
Yeah,
and
good point.
This was a big deal for Lincoln, Congressman Lincoln, and he made a point that that's we should that Well, they wanted to go to war to make sure where the border was, and he was against Polk. Was it Polk or Taylor? He was against the war, anti-war Lincoln, and your picture just anti-war Lincoln, and why he didn't make it back to Congress for a second term. But yeah, the Guadalupe was supposed to be the boundary and not the Rio Grande, as far as he was concerned. As I think he had good support for it, but other people had other ideas. Yeah. So, uh huh. Don't mess with my head. Don't mess with my head. Yeah. Uh huh. USAID. Yeah. Yeah. Wheat, wheat, which would have suppressed the price of wheat if it wasn't if we didn't find something to do with it, or would just go foul, would just decay, be dumped. This was a way of putting it to good use. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Hmm. Yeah. 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 Cheese has always been a good emergency backup for a quick source of food. An emergency. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Right. 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 Well, I didn't know, the price of not knowing, and we talked about this before the broadcast, but it relates to this, and when you bring up immigration, is that apparently he was meeting with these five African leaders from West Africa to discuss them receiving illegal, undocumented. Yeah, well, are they undocumented? We don't know, but whatever we send them, they would take, and um, you when you deny justice to people and then deport them to all kinds of countries, are we not laying just seeds for terrorism at some point? Not all these people, because they were good people. But then, you deny them their families, you deny them justice, you send them to countries they're unfamiliar with. You're just going to lay the seeds of ill will, ill will everywhere. And uh, again, at the price of not knowing, the fact that he did not know that Liberia, the national language is English and has been for 2 centuries now, over 2 centuries. And he went on to compliment the president of Liberia on his very excellent English. And where did he ask him where he learned English? And he just dug himself a hole, but he didn't know. Okay, and presidents usually receive a briefing on the facts of a nation, and that they'll be meeting with, and either he forgot or he blew it off. Either he didn't receive one or he blew it off because he dug a deep hole in his lack of knowledge. It seems trivial, but he is, I think, among his supporters, the savior and a genius when he obviously is not, and there's so much evidence for that. But back to the functional aspect of it, though, all the way down to NOAA, all the way down to the National Weather Service. Cut, not understanding the implications of what they are doing. The classic Republican model of governance. We don't know. They have that big thumbs up picture passing the big beautiful bill. They're all smiling thumbs up. When Senator Sanders reminded them that you're killing 50,000 people a year when you throw 14 million people off of healthcare, off access to healthcare. That's how many you're killing. Yeah. I don't know. Sure. Well, you, we know those cuts aren't coming in, but hospitals and health systems and practices have to plan for that now. They have to plan for that shortfall now. That means they can't be making any major purchases related to expected Medicaid reimbursements. That's basically is drying up now, in terms of planning because they're looking at rural hospitals closing. And I think that will come quicker than, and that's the other thing that they think they're getting away with because, they're all business people, right? But they apparently don't understand planning for the future in terms of operations and budgeting. Where do they? Yeah, yeah. Government bad, we cut. Government bad, we cut. We destroy. Bang, 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 bang. We destroy the government. That's our job. Right? Yes. Yes. Hmm. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. right. Well, and you cite some red states there out in the wide, underpopulated Midwest, but downstate Illinois will be hit by this too. With the, yeah, yeah, creating problems for the blue state governors. But the red states will be hit even worse because they're in bad shape to begin with, and it makes. Mhm. Well, or they or they won't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She doesn't have quite the electoral votes that Texas has, but right. Well, it's hmm mm, right. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Yikes, yikes. Meh. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. I don't know when. I think the only thing that stops that causes dramatic change if he gets too close to the button, to the red button, to the codes to launch a nuclear attack, and perhaps at that point, responsible officials, primarily the military, would step in to stop such a thing from happening. But what else stops him? No one's putting the brakes on this guy. You know. No. Right. And And there are girlfriend, here. I was looking back at some history stuff. I was, to compare this to different eras, the rise of fascism in Germany, and one of the things about that rise was that there was the Great Depression. All right, there was this huge boom in Germany and the United States and throughout the world, and then there was the Great Depression, which hit the United States and Germany worse. There was even a threat of fascism here, and um, that level of disruption, well, we didn't have anything like that, and we don't even have it now. But boy, it seems like he's working on it. And with that crisis, the ability, illegal or not, to declare a state of national emergency, cancel elections. I'm being highly speculative, but geez, he tries almost every trick in the book. He lays out there, oh, a third term. You know, of course, under Putin rules, there'd only be only one candidate. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. All right. Yeah, and then you saw the way like they supported his mass firings most recently. This supported the mass firings, which segues back into your article. You know, the mass firings contribute to the undercutting of services that are essential to the functioning of the American economy, the American, the American financial system, the agricultural system, fishing, all that, and not just NOAA and the National Weather Service, but all these agencies that, in some way or another, are contributing towards, the advancement of the United States of medicine and health and all these things. But yeah, the price of not knowing is tremendous, I think. Yeah. Uh huh. Yes. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. 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 But they're planning. I think we're still giving them too much credit for planning because they're idiots. But, but yeah. Right, right. Well, and I say that they're idiots, but the thing is, they're idiots with the power. They're idiots who gain control. They somehow manage to pull this off, and uh, and that's why everybody thinks he's a genius, and all that. Why he was thinking about tariffs 45 years ago. Okay, what does that mean? Because he was thinking about it. Because he was thinking about it, and that makes him a genius. That's what Lutkin would say, has said. So it's kind of not so. Yeah. Well, I think they're afraid to hire. You think they'd have one secret hire, you know, that they kept somewhere to tell them what to do to look good, right? But no, apparently they didn't hire that person, you know. Well, what's the case? There's the case at the FBI where the fellow was going to I can't remember the names. The fellow was going to be fired because of his friendship with with someone they didn't like, and so he left. He voluntarily exited. Now, uh, uh-huh. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep. 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 Well, I think I closed. Uh, that wraps it up for Two Grumpy Old Men podcast. This post Independence Day episode. I'm Tim Bagwell. From both of us, remember that we all have a role to play in saving our democracy. Thank you, Rich. It's just recording, huh? Why is that? Well, go up there and just highlight the URL and hit enter. That's what I always thought of it. I, I have no control over your studio. How weird is this thing? Their software is kind of interesting. Wow, it says it's uploading. 99% uploading. What's that about? It says, yeah, when the recording is done, you may need to stick around a little bit to upload your quality recording. Ah, so maybe it's the record. It's the well, when I say high quality recording, I don't know if it's talking audio or video. Hmm, I'm perplexed. Um, if you were to, well, so does it say upload complete? You haven't used all the minutes you asked for. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think if you, I think that if you were to leave, that there would be uh, you come back in and you'll be okay because it's not gonna. I don't get. I think the upload would continue, is what I'm saying. Maybe I can, since we're at the to be edited out part. I'll drink some Pellegrino with feel up in the thing. I was gonna mention how weird is this? Oh, so what would have been another thing we a feature we can we post a link to like your article? I was thinking about that at the time. I had copied it a link over. I copied. Yeah, but yeah, yeah. Help. Chat support. Huh. Chat support. Product question, feature request, subscription, like account management. Technical issue. Stop recording. I said technical issue, and I said, please help us stop. I didn't understand. You gotta refresh the page there, dude. Oh, you're gone. Can you hear me? Ah, y'all back. You have returned.
Yeah. I think you put up
Now I have a stop button.